Welcome to Cities on the Move. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. Today we meet Ken Olson, who has been a draftsman for nearly 50 years. He is also an author who has documented the contributions of Rochester architect Harold Crawford, whose work can be seen throughout the area. Barbara Gunderson joins us to talk about the AmeriCorps project, coordinated by the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. And we also meet Jan Stevens and her protégés near Dundas, Minnesota. They are working on historical dressmaking. Stay tuned for Cities on the Move. Ken Olson has spent the majority of his life as a draftsman, bringing creative designs to life. He also chronicled the work of local architect Harold Crawford. Let's meet him now.
My name is Ken Olson. I live in Rochester, and I'm currently the architectural historian for the Olmsted County Historical Society, and spend a lot of time at the History Center, working in the archives, doing research. I also do walking tours for them, especially in the Pill Hill area of Rochester. Well, I first became a draftsman at age 17. I apprenticed as a draftsman and learned my trade. That would have been in the 1950s. So I basically supported myself as a draftsman for many years. Went to college at the age of 25. Ended up with a degree in math instead of engineering. And that led to IBM and a career there as a programmer. But for 55 years, drafting and drawing has been either my vocation or my avocation. A number of years later, I was active in the local Masonic organization, and I got a call and said, go pick up a 50-year member to bring him to a banquet. And the name was H.H. Crawford, and the penny didn't drop. I actually walked in, and this very elegant, well-dressed gentleman, much taller than I am, probably at about 6'2" or 6'3", greeted me and took me in the house. And basically I saw a painting, half-finished painting on an easel, and then the penny dropped with a crash, and I knew that that was the Harold Crawford I'd heard of. What was unique about his architecture was that he basically knew how to give the client what he wanted, but also be true to his own kind of trademarks. And his stylistic trademark was the great Tudor houses that you see if you go into Pill Hill in Rochester. And also he put secret compartments in virtually every one of his houses. I'm not going to talk too much in depth about those. I found some of them for owners. But of course, that's one place I never blab. I think I've always been a writer. Though I wasn't a very disciplined writer until I joined IBM and then started doing some technical papers and technical writing. It came together with the love of architecture. When I did the Crawford book, I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. But I did just what my good old 7th grade English teacher told me to do. I went back, I had all this massive information, and I made an outline. The Ellerby, it's now known as Ellerby Beckett, and it's headquartered in Minneapolis. It's still a very large firm. This is their centennial year. They were founded in 1909 by Franklin Ellerby. This company has never done residential work anywhere else but in Rochester, Minnesota, and they've designed buildings all over the world. I was curious as to why this happened. What was the story, and how did that come to pass? Why did they just do houses in Rochester? And the reason was because Dr. Mayo had this vision that if he was going to build the clinic into a world-class thing, he had to attract and keep prominent doctors to come into the clinic. I think the real way to preserve buildings and the stories of the people that lived in them, which are equally important, is to document them and get them in an archive where they're available to everyone.
Well, today we're talking about AmeriCorps, and the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation has developed a program, or is partnering with this program, in our area, and we have a couple of special guests here today to talk about it. We have Christine Hickman, and we have Barbara Gunderson. Welcome, gals. Thanks for being on the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Barbara, we're going to start with you. You are with the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. Tell us a little bit about your organization and your partnership with AmeriCorps, or how this program kind of came to life.
Would love to. The Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation is one of the 6 McKnight foundations in Minnesota, and in our region in southern Minnesota we cover 20 counties. And our relationship with AmeriCorps has been one of 15 years. AmeriCorps was started by President Clinton in 1993, and we applied for one of the initial grants, and the whole goal was, as you may recall or may know, is to engage young people in service to community. And for that, your commitment, then they would get an education award to go to school and continue their education. So it was a workforce incentive. AmeriCorps' history goes way back to the Civilian Conservation Corps. So, during the Depression, and putting people to work and fixing bridges. And you, the audience may know too, the VISTA and the Peace Corps. Well, AmeriCorps is considered the domestic Peace Corps. And so we serve people nationally. And we have been doing this, like I say, for 15 years. So the foundation really views this as bringing more resources into the region to help communities. We have 174 communities in our counties. So we're trying, with this goal, is to engage more people in opportunities, people that are in transition. Like Chris will talk about her situation, but there are people that are in between jobs, but initially it started with focusing on young people that were in college. And if they had started college and then didn't know if they wanted to continue or didn't know if their major was right, this was a perfect opportunity for them to get professional experience to serve their communities. So it's a servant leadership opportunity.
Okay. And how many AmeriCorps, I guess projects maybe is the right term, that the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation coordinates or is involved in? How many are in our region?
Well, this year we have 33 members serving.
Okay.
Usually we average about 20 to 30. In the beginning, we had as many as 60 in the region, and we were partnering with Winona State and Mankato State. Now, for the last 10 years, we've always been the legal hosts for this grant. And so our focus right now, we've aligned it with our early childhood initiative to get more kids ready for kindergarten. Less than about 52% of children are ready for kindergarten. And our focus is on developing the social and emotional skill sets of those kids, because it's proven that if you're not ready to learn, if you're not socially and emotionally ready for the rigors of kindergarten, you aren't going to learn those ABCs as well.
Right. Kindergarten is rigorous these days, isn't it?
It is. It's getting more and more rigorous with No Child Left Behind.
So you said you had, what was it, 30, 35?
About 33
members,
this year.
33 members this year. And they are spread throughout communities throughout southern Minnesota?
They are. We are, right now, we are in 16 communities. We're aligned with many Head Start centers, early childhood programs, ECFEs, also the Parent Resource Center, so crisis nursery, and just helping parents, single parents, young parents, and serving those children that the teachers have targeted as falling in the gap for social and emotional growth.
Well, Chris, let's loop you into this. You are one of the 33 members.
I am.
And you are based in a community.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you're at and your specific task.
Okay, great. Well, I actually live in Albert Lea, Minnesota, and I'm able to serve there also. And I'm serving alongside the Head Start there, which actually provides education for all of Freeborn County, really. So we have students that come in, not just in Albert Lea, but they come in from the outlying areas also. And I was really attracted to this program, kind of as Barb alluded to. I'm an older student, so I found myself at a gap in life where I really had time to consider, how can I invest myself and what do I really care about? And I really care about early childhood issues, and children being ready for kindergarten was very appealing to me. And so when I found out about the grant, just through some research that I was doing, looking for options for myself, I applied right away and just thought, this is a really good fit for me, just knowing what I love to do and knowing what I'm skilled at doing.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell us about that process a little bit. You applied. Did you have to go through an interview process, or how did you end up being selected?
I did. That's a great question. Actually, I applied, and then we did an interview process. It's a great process also as far as references. Had some great references come through from people that knew of work I had done before that were super supportive of me taking on this role. And they've actually still been great cheerleaders for me to this day. So they enjoy what I'm doing, and they're encouraged by it. So really the process was just that. It's just applying, going through the interview process, making sure I was a good fit, and then Barbara and really a team of people really try to decide where my skill and really even my location would work best, and if there's an opening there. And for me, that just lined up perfectly. So.
All right, great. Now, Barbara, does this grant or this program offer a stipend for folks who are doing some of this exploration and experience gaining, in addition to the educational component, the kind of, I guess, grant that they'd receive at the end of that? I mean, people can't live on nothing while they're serving.
Right.
They do. They do get a living allowance, and part of that this whole year is like a service learning experience for them. So the living allowance is minimal, but it is enough if you really scrimp and save to live on. But they do get that living allowance. They also, if they have any school loans, they go into forbearance, and then the trust pays the interest that accrues for their year of service. They also, if they're full-time, they do get a health care option, so they get health care coverage. And then when they're done, they get that education award. And it is about $5,000, and it will be going up over the years to about $5,500.
Super.
And they can serve 2 years.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at that, they could make almost $11,000 towards
Right.
tuition and books.
Right. It's really a perfect fit for someone who is currently pursuing education or who has just finished, you know, with the education grant, and then just as an opportunity to create unique experience for future jobs also.
So you are working with Head Start. Is this a full-time occupation for you? And,
Yes.
And when did you start, and how long will your year last?
Oh, good question. I started about in August, really September 1 would be when the students showed up. And I work 40 hours a week, some weeks a little bit more. And then the goal for me will be to complete 1,700 hours of service. And the end date should be July 31st. But I am expecting that we're serving pretty strong right now, putting in a lot of hours, that during the summer some of those hours will probably thin down. It might become more part-time.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so what kinds of things do you do for Head Start?
Oh, I do great things. Head Start, where I'm at, actually has a curriculum that they really have invested in called Incredible Years, which is specifically targeted for social emotional goals of preschool children. And really until I had the opportunity to come along and invest time and energy into it, the teachers there do so many valuable pieces that they just got to do a little bit of it. But I've been able to take it and expand it and enjoy that, and it offers so many opportunities for the students. The first unit was just about school rules, just helping them accommodate, what do I do now that I'm in preschool and my caretaker's not right here beside me? So that was a big unit, and it took some time to process through those things. How do we sit at the carpet? How do we wait our turn? Really good stuff. And then we just finished the unit on feelings. How do we identify how we're feeling? What would that look like on our face? What would the clues be? So that also was just really great, and it's really rewarding to just see the feedback from the students as they start to grab the terminology and learn the expression that goes along with that, and they start to own in their life, oh, I feel sad, and their face reflects it, and it's such a great thing. And we're just starting problem solving. We just started this week, so that I'm expecting that to take some work and to be a big unit with the preschoolers, but the Head Start staff is excited, and I'm excited, and it's a really great curriculum. So that's been the primary focus of my time. I have other things that I've been working on also, but
it's direct student interaction,
yes,
which is great.
Yes, I work with 2 classrooms, so I'm involved directly or indirectly with about 32 students, and I focus on about 16 specifically.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Now, preschoolers, is that just 4 and 5-year-olds, or how young?
3.
It goes
3
down
to 5,
to 3.
yep.
Okay.
Head Start accommodates 3 to 5.
All right.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of halfway through this first year. Give us a sense, and maybe you don't know yet, but is the second year kind of re-up? Look like it's
We would love
feasible?
for her to re-up.
Thank you. I actually would love to do that. I'm a graduate student myself, and I have another year of grad studies, and I'm enjoying the flexibility of this program. Plus, I just have found a lot of value in the investment that I'm making. So I would like to do this another year. So
Great. And what is your grad study?
it will be special education, actually.
So it ties.
Yeah, it's a really great experience and a good fit. So Yeah.
So, Barb, how hard is it to recruit new people if they are in for a year? I mean, that's a pretty relatively short period of time. I know it doesn't always seem like it, but for program organizers such as yourself, you have to look for new people all the time.
We do. We're accepting applications for members year-round. We do try to encourage members to do a second year. It really benefits the site as well to have that 2-year consistency at the site for the children, especially when they start with the younger kids and they come back for a second year. So we are very fortunate with this, program trying to get the word out. We also do our connection with all of our Southern Minnesota Initiative partners. Our alums, we have found, have been the best source for recruiting for us, because if they are having a great experience, then they want their pals and network of friends to know about it and to also try it. And there are just with the economy the way it is, this is really just an excellent opportunity for people. Your professional network is expanded. Chris is in special ed. We get a lot of social workers, people interested in psychology, teaching. This is a wonderful experience for them.
I agree.
Great. Does everyone start you mentioned your year kind of runs August to July. Does everyone start in that same
They do.
cycle?
They start in the same cycle. Members serve at their sites Mondays through Thursdays, and Fridays are reserved for a core team day. So there is a lot of team building, leadership development. We have the Strength Finder looking at their strengths as a professional and a servant leader in the community, because our hope is, with life after AmeriCorps, that they continue to see how service is of a really value to them personally, but also to help build the fabric of their community.
Okay. Now, you mentioned you kind of aligned your AmeriCorps projects with your early family childhood education, that piece. I'm assuming that hasn't always been the case. What are some other areas of interest that you've used AmeriCorps members to fulfill missions in communities in our region?
Well, prior to our early childhood focus, which is work of the foundation, we would blanket all nonprofits. Our goal was to really help build capacity of nonprofits. And so we were in tutoring, and we were aligned with schools, we were aligned with youth clubs to mentor youth, and we do have a youth component where our members do engage youth in community service. That is like a sideline of what some of their hours are used for. We've also helped people with disabilities. We've helped immigrant and refugees with independent learning skills. That was in our first 10 years. We were all over the map.
Any success story that stands out for you especially that you want to share with folks?
Well, there have been so many. I mean, we're just so proud of our alums, and they do keep in touch with us and tell us, what they are doing. But this week, I just got a call from a member from when I first started as a director, and I've been a director for about 10 years. And this gentleman was a Somali immigrant, and he started in Rochester. And really, this whole AmeriCorps National Service and everything was new to him. And he was out of Rochester. Well, 9 years later, he just got a job with the federal government as an interpreter to help with the war on terror, actually. But his service, he said AmeriCorps really was critical in their interest in me because of that commitment to service and volunteerism. And then from our program, he was a liaison in the Rochester school systems for families, trying to engage them more in school processes. So I guess that's a recent thing, to just see how someone that came to our country and became engaged, and now they're serving our country in a very large and grand way.
Yes. For someone who is watching and might be interested in becoming a member of the AmeriCorps program and going through that application process, how do they get in touch with you? How would you like to receive a contact from them?
Well, they can go to the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation website at smifoundation.org. They can also call the foundation if, I don't know if you want a number, 507-455-3215. And just ask for me or Terry Steckelberg, and they can download our application off of the website under Early Childhood. They'll find it under Early Childhood link.
Great. So. Well, if you are interested in AmeriCorps as a program, there are plenty of opportunities, it sounds like, throughout our region, especially if you're interested in working with young children. Thank you, gals, so much for coming and sharing information about the program.
Thank you.
Definitely.
All right. If you would like, get in touch with Barbara Gunderson at the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. Stay tuned for more Cities on the Move. Jan Stevens has fallen in love with history. She has also been a passionate seamstress over the years. Let's see how she has merged these two interests.
Vintage clothing is a trend that continues to capture the creative imagination of fashion-forward women in the region. Mixing and matching retro jewelry, classic handbags, and timeless treasures is a common practice. For one woman and her students, vintage clothing has a whole other meaning. It is a way to immerse oneself in history and truly experience the past with new understanding. Jan Stevens grew up with custom-tailored clothing and now relishes the process of piecing together garments that bring the past to life.
I grew up on a farm in southern Illinois, and my mother sewed everything we wore. I was the eldest of 3 daughters. We never had anything that was store-bought. Sometimes we wanted store-bought things. We had no idea how fortunate we were. My mother is an exquisite tailor, and she would make us matching plaid wool suits with all the plaids matched, and she'd have little bias-bound buttonholes, and everything was fully lined, and beautiful clothes, and we grew up spoiled. At 19, I bought my first sewing machine.
A love of history was also instilled early in Jan's life.
The Jersey County Sesquicentennial, almost 50 years ago. It'll soon be the 200th. And our whole family was in that. My mother was one of the narrators, and she made the costume-type centennial clothes then. We all had costumes with the hoop skirts. What I'm interested in now, my husband and I joined we're charter members of the Cannon Valley Civil War Roundtable here in Rice County. And we started our 5th year this fall. And once you get into the Civil War, it seems like there's no end to it. We just have a wonderful time with this group. One of the things is, what was life like for women? What happened during this? I mean, you really shouldn't get me started on the Civil War, because there's so many firsts. It was so important to our country and to what we are now, as to what we've gone through.
Jan has successfully blended her love of history, her training as a home economist, and her skills as a seamstress as she leads classes in historic dressmaking.
When you do living history, you want to be as authentic as possible. And so that brings about the sewing, because the techniques, the fabric, everything about it, the fit of the garments, you can't just buy a pattern for today and wear it, and make it. That's a costume. It's not an exact replica garment. The corset is the first thing. I mean, people don't realize that you have to start with the underwear. You can't just make a dress, because it won't fit right, it won't look right. You have to start with the underwear. If you don't have the right underwear, none of it is going to work. You won't stand right, you won't sit right, nothing.
In addition to understanding the layering of the clothing pieces themselves, Jan instructs her students on the selection of fabrics and replication of sewing techniques.
The techniques that are used, the fabric that's used, everything about making a corset, for instance, and to make the chemise that you wear under the corset, it's really different than it is today. We just don't make clothes like that today. And the fabric is different. Clothes then had to be scrubbed on a scrub board. They had to be very strong and very sturdy. Fabric was expensive, clothing was expensive. You may not have very much, and it may have to last a long time. And then most clothes were recycled. On this very fine cotton like this, what you do is you pull one of these fine threads, and then it's pressed and sewn, and you do it one layer after another. What these tucks do is they give weight to the garment so it isn't going to blow up or ruffle up so that your ankle is shown or more.
Cindy Robinson joined the class to expand her seamstress skills.
I've learned a lot about historical costumes, which interests me. I have a strong interest in the theater as well. And I have learned how important the undergarments are, which has been very interesting to me. We use 100% cotton and a very high quality cotton because you want it to be comfortable for the chemise and the pantaloons that we make. And then it has to be a very sturdy fabric for the corset.
Class member Julie Winchettle already has a line of orders from her daughters for her finished creations.
My daughter has always really liked vintage costumes, and she's been bothering me. She looks at the back of the pattern catalogs and she sees these beautiful elaborate dresses, and she's like, when are you going to sew me one of those? And I've been putting her off because there's an awful lot of yardage in those dresses and it's kind of intimidating. Since I've started on this, now my youngest daughter's come around. Now that she knows what I'm doing, she wants me to make a Marie Antoinette dress for her, which is even more yardage. So I'm getting ready for that.
For Jan and her students, it's a fascinating exploration of the past.
I guess that's what I'm becoming, is a time traveler.
Cities on the Move is on the web. Make a comment, ask a question, or share your good idea by visiting our website at ksmq.org.
And now for the calendar of events. Enjoy an adults-only evening outdoors as you ski by candlelight and the glow of a full moon at Quarry Hill Nature Center on Friday, January 29th. After skiing, sip wine and munch on cheeses while warming up in front of their blazing fireplace. Ski equipment is available, or you can bring your own, and pre-registration is required. For more information, visit qhnc.org. The 10th annual gourmet auction is also on January 29th at the Wedgwood Cove Golf Club in Albert Lea. Social hour begins at 6, and at 6:30 you can start the tasting. Tickets are $20 each, or 2 for $30, and a table of 10 is also available. Money raised will be used for the 2010 Education Days at the Big Island Rendezvous and Festival and community projects of the Albert Lea-Freeborn County Chamber of Commerce. For more information, call the Chamber at 507-373-3938. On February 3rd through the 6th, fans travel from around the world to gather at the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake to remember and celebrate the revolutionary styles of Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens. Doors open at 6 p.m., and for more information about the Winter Dance Party, visit surfballroom.com. If you have an event you'd like to share with our viewers, log on to our website, ksmq.org, and post your information today. Next week on Cities on the Move, we revisit an old favorite episode. Originally aired in January of 2009, we learn about the inception of the Vitality Project in Albert Lea. We meet Nancy Overgaard and hear her stories of mission and service work abroad. And we take a peek at the Freeborn County Red Cross Dancing Stars. Please join us Tuesday, January 26th at 6:30 p.m. on KSMQ for another edition of Cities on the Move. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. Good night.
Production of this program is made possible in part through a grant from the Blandon Foundation.